Mr. Lim Biao Chuan.
Question 3, sir.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the revised buyer's stamp duty, or BSD, rates will make our BSD regime more progressive by having higher rates when buyers purchase more expensive residential and non-residential properties. The transitional provision and its three conditions are similar to those implemented for the Budget 2018 BSD rate adjustments and pass additional buyer's stamp duty, or ABSD, rate adjustments. These conditions are designed to ensure that the prior BSD rates apply only to pre-existing options to purchase, or OTPs, that are granted on or before 14th of February 2023, even though they are exercised shortly later. There is a condition that the OTP should not be varied on or after 15 February 2023 to minimize gaming by buyers hoping to circumvent the revised BSD rates. Buyers who are unable to fulfill the conditions of the transitional provision due to extenuating circumstances may submit an appeal to IRAS.
Mr. Lim Biao Chuan.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Senior Minister of State, I understand the rationale, but there are certain parts of it which I cannot understand, which is the part about variation. So the variation of terms like, so for example, if the parties cannot complete for reasons that are not within their control, for example, if it's sole subject to tenancy and tenant wants to vacate, they can't vary their contract because it has no impact on the progressive nature of the stamp duty. Or if, for example, the parties cannot complete because the bank changes the date, how does that impact this provision to make stamp duty more progressive? I mean, at the end of the day, the variation must go to the root of the policy considerations, which is that you don't want parties to game the system and to avoid the progressive nature of the increase in stamp duty. So perhaps Senior Minister of State can confirm whether if the terms of variation do not go to the root of the avoidance of the stamp duty, can parties still proceed with the variation?
SMS Chee.
So I think the member raised a valid point that in some situations, the variations to the OTPs are genuine and minor. So for this kind of situations, as I mentioned in my main reply, they can submit an appeal to IRAS, and IRAS will consider if there is justification to provide flexibility. IRAS has done so for the majority of appeal cases it received so far. However, when we set the criteria, we have to cater to a range of different possibilities, including cases where people are deliberately trying to avoid paying higher BSD. So I think we need to strike a balance.
Associate Professor James Lim.
Just a quick clarification. I understand the motivation, just like the honourable member, but it strikes me that why don't we just give a little bit more buffer on the front end? Perhaps some individuals will game the system rather than go through the exhaustive appeal route, which in the long run ultimately won't matter. If we give them an extra month, in the end they may still, it eases some of these short-term appeal considerations, but in the long run ultimately it's still going to be progressive.
SMS Chee.
So I think what Associate Professor James Lim raised is different from what Mr. Lim Biao Chuan raised, because Mr. Lim is not asking about the duration. We do provide some time in the conditions that the OTP is exercised on or before 7th of March or within the validity period, whichever is earlier. So it's not that there's no grace period provided. But I think what Mr. Lim Biao Chuan asked is a slightly different thing. He's asking about if there's a variation to the OTP that has been signed. So as I explained, we do need to cater to a range of different scenarios and possibilities. So we state the condition up front, but we do allow appeals, and IRAS has approved the majority of appeals he has received so far.
Mr. Lim, perhaps a short clarification, a short SQ.
I'm so grateful, sir. I'm still not very sure how it works. Supposing parties agree to complete on a certain date, but the buyer cannot get his financing on time and ask for one extra month. So what does he do? They have to write to IRAS because they've already paid the stamp duty when they exercise the option. But because he cannot complete, because he can't get his funds on time, he then has to write to IRAS about that increase in stamp duty, or can parties negotiate on their own? How does IRAS expect them to solve this?
SMS Chee.
So I think I've explained this several times. The appeal process is to consider the circumstances of each transaction case by case. I hope the members, both Associate Professor James Lim and Mr. Lim Biao Chuan, understand why it is very difficult for us to spell out upfront what are all the detailed situations, because it is going to be case by case. But as I gave Mr. Lim the assurance, if there are genuine cases and the changes are not major, they are minor changes, do surface to IRAS, and IRAS will consider if there are justifications to provide flexibility.